Born in 200 AC to Prince Maekar Targaryen and Lady Diana Dane, Aegon Targaryen was given a green dragon egg with white swirls which he kept at Summerhall. As he aged, Aegon grew into a bold, mischievous, compassionate, and kindly boy with deep dark purple eyes and silver gold hair. Under the reign of his grandfather, King Daeron II, Aegon served for 2 years as a page in the royal court, sometimes attending meetings of the small council. The fourth son and fifth child of Prince Maekar, his siblings included his older brothers, Daeron, Aerion, and Aemon, who gave him the nickname Egg, as well as his older sister Daella and younger sister Rhae. In their youth, Aegon and his brothers recreated the Battle of the Redgrass Field with painted soldiers, while his sisters played games for his affection, as he was betrothed from an early age to Daella, which led a jealous Rhae to slip him a supposed love potion so he would marry her instead. At the time, however, Aegon had no interest in girls and dreamed of becoming a great knight of the King's Guard. Though he got along well with most of his siblings, he hated his cruel, deranged older brother Aerion, who thought he was a dragon in human form, possibly threw Aegon's pet cat down a well, and visited Aegon's room at night where he held a knife to the boy's privates, threatening to remove his genitals and make him a sister so they could marry. Eager to start his knightly training around the age of 9, Aegon was named squire to his eldest brother, but was disappointed to learn Daeron was a deeply troubled man who drank excessively to deal with the prophetic visions that plagued his dreams. Though they were supposed to attend the tourney of Ashford in 209 AC, Daeron instead drank himself into a stupor at a nearby inn, even shaving Aegon's head so no one would recognize him as a Targaryen. After the death of his mentor, Sir Arlen of Pennytree, the former squire Dunk stopped at an inn on his way to Ashford, where he mistook young Aegon as a stable boy and encountered a drunk Daeron Targaryen who spoke of seeing him in a dream. Desperate to serve as a squire at the tourney, Aegon offered his services to the humble hedge knight but was rejected. Even so, he refused to take no for an answer, and hitched a ride to the tourney on the back of a lamb cart, before finding Dunk's camp and demonstrating his usefulness by washing the man's clothes, grooming his horses, making a fire, catching a fish and cooking the fish. Impressed by the boy he assumed was an orphan from Fleabottom, Dunk accepted him as a squire for the tourney, and they formally exchanged names, with Aegon calling himself Egg and the hedge knight Sir Duncan the Tall. Much to Egg's regret, his hated brother Aerion also attended the tourney, and almost immediately caused trouble when he challenged Sir Humphrey Harding to a joust, but purposely aimed his lance low to strike his opponent's horse, which then flailed in pain and collapsed on the knight, shattering his leg. Egg then witnessed Aerion target the Dornish girl Tenzel Too-Tall and break her fingers because she performed a puppet show that depicted a knight slaying a dragon. Outraged by his brother's cruelty, Egg ran to Sir Duncan, who immediately defended the girl, striking Aerion down before kicking him in the belly and mouth. Yet assaulting a member of the royal family was a serious crime, and so Sir Duncan was captured by the prince's guards, who would have done him great harm if not for the intervention of Egg, who revealed his true identity as Prince Aegon Targaryen, grandson of the king and younger brother to Aerion. Even so, the hedge knight was imprisoned, and so Egg visited him with a tray of food and explained himself, apologizing for the deception. Later brought before Egg's uncle, Prince Baelor Breakspear, heir to the Iron Throne, Dunk learned he now faced a second accusation, as Egg's original master, Prince Daeron, invented a story about the hedge knight kidnapping Aegon from an inn to avoid punishment from their father for getting drunk while the boy ran off. Fortunately for Sir Duncan, who feared the loss of a hand and foot, Prince Baelor was wise, good-hearted, and sympathetic, advising him to ask for a trial by combat, only for Aerion to then demand a trial of 7, likely fearing he'd lose a one-on-one confrontation, while reasoning it was unlikely his opponent could rally 6 champions to his cause. Later that night, Egg visited Sir Duncan at the Fossaway tent, where Sir Steffan pledged to be one of his champions, and brought his brother Daeron, who apologized for his lies, and promised to take a dive during the fighting. Nevertheless, Dunk did not have much hope, until young Aegon helped gather 4 more champions, in Sir Humphrey Harding, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, Sir Robin Riceling, and the Laughing Storm Sir Lionel Baratheon. However, when Sir Steffan was offered a lordship, he betrayed the team and joined Prince Aerion. Outraged by this dishonor, Raymond Fossaway volunteered to replace his cousin Stefan, and so was knighted by Sir Lionel Baratheon. Still short one man, Sir Duncan appealed to the crowd, resulting in Prince Baelor Breakspear becoming his final champion. Prince Aeryn's team included his brother Prince Daeron, his father Prince Maekar, Sir Stefan Fossaway, and the three Kingsguard, Willem Wilde, Donald of Duskendale, and Roland Crakehall. Although Dunk's inexperience nearly cost his life, he used his superior strength and wrestling to defeat the prince. Yet much to Duncan's regret, several knights lost their lives, including Sir Humphrey Harding, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, and Prince Baelor Breakspear, who initially survived the trial, but died soon after from a terrible head wound inflicted by his brother Maekar, collapsing into the arms of the Hedge Knight, who begged him to get up. After the trial, Egg spoke to his father and informed him he would squire for no one save Sir Duncan, and so Maekar held a meeting with the Hedge Knight, offering him a position at Summerhall. Duncan accepted Egg as his squire, but only on the condition he could continue as a Hedge Knight, so the boy could learn humility and the struggles of the small folk. Though able to join Sir Duncan, Aegon had to hide his identity throughout their travels, but carried with him a Targaryen signet ring he could show if they were ever in trouble. After the tournament, Duncan and Egg went on a number of adventures, including a journey through Dorne, a sea voyage to Old Town that was raided by pirates, giving both their first taste of combat at sea, and a trip to the Citadel where they visited Egg's older brother Maester Aemon. They then went to work for Sir Eustace Osgrey of Standfast, who was in conflict with House Webber of Coldmoat over the rights to the Chequy Water. To avoid a battle their side would certainly lose, Dunk showed Lady Webber Aegon's signet ring, but the issue still needed to be decided, and so the Hedge Knight fought a trial by combat against Sir Lucas Longinch, where Sir Duncan nearly drowned but ultimately emerged victorious. After pulling his wounded master from the river, Egg was gifted a horse named Rain by Lady Webber, who went on to settle the dispute by marrying Sir Eustace. Sometime later in 212 AC, Duncan and Egg traveled north, having heard Lord Baron Stark was hiring warriors to defend the coast from Ironborn raiders, but along the way met a number of knights like John the Fiddler, who invited them to the wedding of Lord Ambrose Butterwell and a daughter of House Frey, as a tourney would be held with a dragon egg as the grand prize. As they joined the festivities, Egg struck the squire of Sir Mallor when he called Prince Maekar a kinslayer that might kill King Aerys, who inherited the throne after the death of Daeron II 3 years earlier. Egg also noticed many in attendance once supported Daemon Blackfyre and grew suspicious, while Dunk lost his horse and armor when defeated and nearly killed in the first round of jousting by Sir Uther Underleaf. Soon enough, the tourney spiraled into chaos. As the dragon egg was stolen, Sir Glendon Ball was arrested, and Lord Alan Cockshaw attacked Sir Duncan, revealing his jealousy that his possible lover John the Fiddler was giving the Hedge Knight extra attention. Although Duncan was injured in the attack, he managed to defeat his assailant and throw him down a well. Initially unable to find his squire, he eventually found Aegon confronting Lord Ambrose Butterwell, accusing him of conspiring with other Blackfyre supporters, falsely claiming his father Prince Maekar was on his way with an army. Forced to defend the boy, Sir Duncan killed Black Tom Heddle, after which he revealed John the Fiddler's true identity as Daemon Blackfyre II, who was gathering supporters at White Walls for a second Blackfyre rebellion. Dunk then claimed Sir Glendon Ball was falsely arrested by the Blackfyre supporter Lord Gorman Peake because he refused to take a dive in his joust against John the Fiddler. In order to decide the veracity of these claims, Daemon Blackfyre fought Sir Glendon in a trial by combat joust, but was soundly defeated and knocked into the mud, causing those in attendance to mockingly call him the Brown Dragon. This second Blackfyre rebellion then ended when the Hand of the King, Brendan Rivers, also called Bloodraven, arrived with an army and arrested Daemon Blackfyre, as he was alerted by informants of this rebel gathering. For their help in thwarting this rebellion, young Aegon insisted on a reward for Sir Duncan, who was then able to ransom back his equipment from Sir Uther. These events concluded, Dunk and Egg continued their journey north and went on many more adventures together. After years of serving as a squire, Aegon was eventually knighted and became an accomplished warrior in his own right, fighting in the Third Blackfyre Rebellion of 219 AC, alongside his father Maekar, brother Aerion, and uncle Bloodraven, against Bittersteel and the claimant King Aegon Blackfyre. Defeated, Aegon was dishonorably killed after surrendering, while Bittersteel was captured and sent to the Night's Watch, only to be rescued and freed by his allies before arriving at the Wall. In 220 AC, Aegon married Betha Blackwood, who birthed his 5 children, starting with his heir Duncan Targaryen, nicknamed Duncan the Small, likely named after his friend and mentor Sir Duncan the Tall, as well as Jaehaerys, Shera, Darren, and Rael. Upon the death of his uncle Aerys I in 221 AC and ascension of Maekar to the Iron Throne, Aegon and his brothers were called to attend their father in the capital of King's Landing. The 4th son of a 4th son, Aegon never expected to rule the realm, but during the reign of his father Maekar, a path toward the Iron Throne gradually presented itself when his eldest brother Darren died, allegedly of a pox caught from a whore, though their brother Maester Aemon claimed it was the dragon dreams that ended his life. The next in line for the throne was Aerion Brightflame, who in 232 AC got drunk and in his madness drank wildfire, believing it would transform him into a dragon, but instead died screaming. The following year of 233 AC, Aegon fought alongside his squire, Tywin Lannister, in the Peak Uprising, where he knighted Tyon's twin, Tywald Lannister, after he suffered a mortal wound. Ever the proud and valiant warrior, King Maekar led the loyalist forces, and although they emerged victorious, the monarch died during the storming of Starpike. With several candidates available as heirs to the Iron Throne, the hand of the King Bloodraven called a great council of noble lords, which decided to bypass Vaella, the feeble-witted daughter of Darren the Drunkard, and Maegor, the 1-year-old son of Aerion Brightflame, fearing he inherited the madness of his father. The nobles then tried to quietly offer the throne to Maester Aemon, the eldest living son of the deceased King Maekar, but he refused, believing he was meant to serve, not rule, and would not break his maester's vows, despite the High Septon offering to absolve him. Briefly presented with an unexpected candidate, Aenys Blackfyre, the exiled 5th-born son of Daemon Blackfyre, wrote to the royal court and put forth his claim to the Iron Throne. Bloodraven then wrote back, offering him safe conduct to the capital where he could present his argument, but as soon as he arrived, Bloodraven ordered him arrested and executed, even presenting his head to the Great Council as a warning to any who might still harbor sympathies to the Blackfyre cause. Left with little choice, the lords of Westeros offered the crown to Maekar's youngest son Aegon, who became Aegon V, called Aegon the Unlikely, though he garnered little love or respect from the noble class, that were put off by the years he spent as a squire to a hedge knight, mingling with the small folk, sometimes calling him half a peasant behind his back. Upon ascending to the Iron Throne, Aegon V's first act was to arrest and banish Bloodraven to the Night's Watch, as he had knowingly broken his word to Aenys Blackfyre while serving as Hand of the King, and so must be punished to save the crown's reputation and ensure their word could still be trusted. Accompanying Bloodraven north was Maester Aemon, who also joined the Night's Watch, fearing others might try using him to plot against the king. Ever grateful to his friend Sir Duncan the Tall for his tutelage and mentorship, King Aegon named him to the Kingsguard, later becoming Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and ordered him to escort his brother and uncle to the Wall. Throughout his reign, Aegon proved the nobles somewhat correct in their assessment of his character, as he largely focused on helping the small folk, like during a particularly harsh winter when he sent generous food shipments north for their survival. He also granted legal rights and protections to commoners, which resulted in backlash and resistance from the nobility, forcing the king to compromise in his desires. Aegon also endured a number of wars during his reign, like in 236 AC when he fought in the 4th Blackfyre Rebellion against Bittersteel, the Golden Company, and the claimant king, Daemon Blackfyre III, son of Aegon Blackfyre. As few rallied to the enemy cause, the Targaryens won a swift victory, with Sir Duncan the Tall slaying Daemon III in single combat, while Bittersteel escaped to Essos with the remnants of their army. Over the years, Aegon also put down 3 rebellions in the Westerlands, due to the incompetence and weak leadership of Lord Tytos Lannister. Yet another consequence of his years among the small folk, Aegon was against the Targaryen tradition of incestuous marriage, and so betrothed his offspring to the children of powerful houses throughout the realm, which would wisely have the secondary effect of garnering significant support for his reforms and overall reign. Thus, his heir Prince Duncan the Small was betrothed to the daughter of Lord Lionel Baratheon, while Prince Jaehaerys was betrothed to Lady Celia Tully of Riverrun, Prince Daeron to Lady Olenna Redwine of the Arbor, and Prince Shera to Luther Tyrell of Highgarden. Yet in the end, his plan failed miserably and only caused more enmity to his reign, starting in 239 AC, when Duncan the Small broke off his betrothal to instead marry the commoner Jenny of Oldstones. Firmly against this decision, King Aegon forced his son to choose between this woman or his position as heir to the Iron Throne, but Prince Duncan chose his wife and willingly surrendered this inheritance to his younger brother Jaehaerys. Outraged by this betrayal, Lord Lionel Baratheon, once a loyal vassal and friend to the king, openly rebelled and declared himself Storm King. Though the Laughing Storm had once fought to defend Sir Duncan the Tall during the tourney of Ashford, they now found themselves on opposite sides, and so to avoid further bloodshed, fought in single combat, where Sir Duncan emerged victorious and ended the rebellion. Despite their victory, Aegon recognized they broke their word, and betrothed his youngest daughter Rhaelle to Lord Lionel's heir Ormond Baratheon, even sending her to Storm's End to serve as the cupbearer and companion to Lord Lionel's wife. Further trouble occurred when Aegon's children, Jaehaerys and Shera, broke off their betrothals to marry each other in 240 AC, and Prince Daeron ended his betrothal in 246 AC, choosing to remain unwed and spend his time with Sir Jeremy Norridge, even dying together in 251 AC, as they fought to crush the rebellion of the Rat, the Hawk, and the Pig. Therefore, instead of garnering support through the marriages of his children, King Aegon made enemies, and had to find other ways to appease the houses Baratheon, Tully, Tyrell, and Redwine. Despite these setbacks, King Aegon served as a just and beloved ruler to the smallfolk, thanks in part to the many lessons he learned as a squire. In the final years of his reign, a fifth Blackfyre rebellion started to gather momentum when Maelys the monstrous Blackfyre, leader of the Golden Company, formed the Band of Nine alliance with 8 other outlaws, exiles, pirates, and sellsword captains, making their base in the Stepstone Islands while they planned their invasion of Westeros. Though the threat was not yet urgent, Aegon V started to prepare their defenses, while his son Prince Duncan the Small remarked that crowns were being sold 9 for a penny, causing many to call these enemies the 9-penny Kings. Ever eager to enact further reforms and help the small folk of his realm, Aegon was convinced the only way the nobles would accept his decrees was for House Targaryen to once again possess dragons, spending much of his time studying their history while sending agents to search for additional lore and texts from places as far as Ashai by the Shadow. And so in 259 AC, Aegon gathered his closest relatives, friends, and supporters to Summerhall to celebrate the birth of his great-grandson to Aerys and Rhaella, the children of his heir Jaehaerys. Once gathered, Aegon attempted a ritual to hatch dragon eggs that went horribly wrong, causing an explosion and devastating fire which killed the king and his firstborn son. Lord Commander Duncan the Tall was also believed to have died during the event, but the writings of Archmaester Gildain suggest he had a role in saving others before his supposed demise. Although Gildain's full account was lost when ink spilled onto his work, what was left read as follows: "The blood of the dragon gathered in one. 7 eggs to honor the 7 gods, though the king's own septon had warned. Pyromancers. Wildfire. Flames grew out of control. Towering. Burned so hot that died, but for the valor of the Lord Command." These brief excerpts led some to speculate that upon seeing the death of the king and much of the royal court, Sir Duncan ensured the survival of the king's granddaughter Rhaella Targaryen and her newborn son Rhaegar. After the death of the king and the tragedy of Summerhall, his son and heir, Jaehaerys II, ascended to the Iron Throne, and while Aegon V was fondly remembered by the smallfolk, many of his reforms were later undone during the reign of his grandson, Aerys II, by the hand of the king, Tywin Lannister. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Delacruz the Freed, Edingruir Spicy Sky Frugran, Tormus Woods Whisper, and Kyle Blitzsword. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.